Morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine. Oh, Liz. So I called Sue Bass.
Yeah.
Okay. And she called Pat. Pat, I think
Right.
yeah. And Pat's gonna pick her up and we'll go to Lebanese. The only thing is that she wants to go, or is 7 okay with you? It's fine with me.
The earlier the better for me.
Great.
7 is
We're gonna do it at 7. Okay.
perfect.
Very good.
Okay, you talked to Roberta?
Yeah. I talked to her, but actually she called and then I called Sue and then I called her back. So
Okay, and Ken?
Ken, I haven't let know yet. I will. I'll put out
Okay,
the email.
we can surprise him.
I think he'll be all right with it. Now he's going to be the only guy, but so what?
Yeah, well, he's done that before.
Yes, he has. Like last week.
The token, token guy.
The only thing, what Sue, I told you how Sue feels about him, right? And
Yes.
She said, "Oh, I wish it could be just the girls." I said, "No, not really."
Maybe it will be. You never know what he'll say.
That's true. That's true.
My girl.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Liz.
I slept weird last night. I could not fall asleep at all. Took me 2 hours.
What?
It took me 2 hours to fall asleep. I got into bed at 11:15. At about 1:30, I fell asleep or thereabouts. And then I slept.
How many hours?
I slept until the alarm went off, which is totally unusual. No clue what happened.
I'm not either.
What time did the alarm go off?
6:30.
Oh, great.
No.
It has to go off 6:30 on Monday because Monday is garbage day and I have to make sure the garbage is out.
Oh. Is there only one garbage day a week?
No, I have 2. I have Monday and Thursday. Monday, they just pick up regular garbage. Thursday, they pick up recycling and garbage.
I see. I don't know. I don't know how I have so much garbage all the time.
Oh, I had tons of garbage this time. I don't have any clue why, although I did throw out some spoiled food that got left alone while I was prepping. So,
Yeah. Well.
but and I didn't have a salad last night. I had an avocado.
All right. I had the salad, no dressing.
Good for you.
And David had his baked potato and scrambled eggs with chives. And the baked potato, of course, sour cream and butter.
So he had to wait till after 7:45.
Yeah. He didn't eat till what was it, like 8:20 or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So we're
here's Rabbi Karsh.
Hi, Rabbi Karsh.
In person.
He's connecting.
Yeah, I see that. He's connecting to the audio. Can he hear us while he's connected? No, maybe not.
He might be able to. We can't hear him for sure. There he is. Now
there he is.
Hear us too.
Hello.
Yellow.
Good morning.
And a top of the morning to you.
Oh, top of the morning. You're still on St. Patty's Day?
A little bit, just a little bit. I didn't see the Green River, but I saw pictures.
Yeah, pictures.
I was all in green, but I didn't go anywhere. Well,
that's okay.
Hey, Estelle.
They say Esther was green.
Yes, there is a thing like that. That is true.
Weird. Hi, Estelle.
She's muted.
My grapes.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning.
By the way, that word yarok, there is a potential spectrum of color on which, in other words, Yarok, even in Rabbinic Hebrew, it depends on context whether it means yellow or green. There are contexts in which the word Yarok means yellow, and there's contexts in which it means green, and it can mean either. And so you have to, in modern Hebrew, it just means green, but not in rabbinic, even in Rabbinic Hebrew, it doesn't necessarily always mean green. So it could be Esther was yellow.
Huh.
unless there was some other modifier, but I don't remember. But that's an option.
That's in Rabbinic. I see. Yeah.
What's yellow in Rabbinic Hebrew? Same word.
No, so I'm saying depends on the context.
Oh.
Yarok is sometimes used. Let's just look it up here for a second.
What's yellow? I can't remember. Yellow in modern Hebrew. It's
Sahov. Sahov. Haaretz.com. Ilan Gilad. This is from March 6th, 2014. Word of the day, Yarok. Ancient Hebrew for green and yellow and everything in between. How the ancients distinguished between the bright yellow of gold and deep green of frogs is a mystery. But I can't go any farther because they will only let you see it if you're a subscriber. That is not fair, I tell you. So let's see. A balashon. There we go. An Israeli once asked me, isn't it difficult to write in English about Hebrew words? I unknowingly paraphrased Salman Rushdie, who wrote, the only people who see the whole picture are the ones who step out of the frame. This seems to be nowhere more true than in my post describing colors. Take Yarok for an example. While in modern Hebrew it means green, there are those who say it once meant yellow or gold. Now, how would I write that sentence in Hebrew? Hayom Yarok perusho Yarok. Avapam Yarok hayat zahov. This is not only a challenge for those who write about colors in their own language, but it makes researching the issue difficult as well. For at some point, Yarok does mean Yarok and Kahol does mean Kahol. But it becomes very hard to determine when that change happens. We've seen the ambiguity with some of the earlier colors, and we'll see it here with Yarok as well. Yarok appears only once in Tanakh, in Job 39:8. But it is not clear from there exactly what color is being mentioned. A different form of the color, Yarak, appears 3 times, twice in Vayikra, talking about Sara'at, and in Tehillim. Let's look at the latter. The verse mentions Biyarak Charutz, which will translate it as greenish gold, but the question here is really, is the gold Yarak and therefore different than in common gold, or is the Yarak gold and is all Yarok gold? There is much evidence that Yarok actually meant a goldish yellow color. In Ugaritic, Urk means gold, and in Southern Arabic, Wark still does. We also have rabbinic sources that connect the two. Tosfot lists a number of such sources. Chulin 47b says Yarok is like the yolk of an egg. Tosefta and Negoim said it's the color of wax. Tosfos also mentions a very interesting midrash on Bereshis where it says that Avram it literally means sent out as men, but Bereshit Rabbah gives a number of explanations, all with the idea that Vayorek means he made them shine like gold. As far as the meaning of Yarak Rak versus Yarok, it would seem that Ibn Ezra could be in trouble once again. The Sifra explains Yarak Rak as the most strongest Yarok. Ibn Ezra writes that the doubling indicates a weakening, so that Yarak Rak means a pale Yarok. In this case, modern Hebrew seems to have taken the side of Ibn Ezra, for words with the last two letters of the root repeating, Yarak Rak and Adam Dam, mean a less full version of that color. However, there are also rabbinic sources that identify Yarok with green. The above mentioned Tosfos mentions them. The Tosefta Negoim writes that Samchus said that Yarak Rak was like the wing of a peacock. Although this site takes the approach, I've not seen the original Hebrew. Anyways, there's also, in any case, today Yarok means only green. Perhaps it was through the influence of the words yerek, which is a vegetable, which in English are often translated as greens. Klein says the yerek divides from yarok, and many plants and vegetables are green, particularly the leaves, etc. Anyways, so Esther.
Okay, if you want to simplify it, in order to make yellow, you have to mix red and green. So there's the green, there's the yellow, and the combination of the words.
Is that how you make yellow?
Yeah, yellow's a secondary color.
I'm going to take your word for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Righty.
So bottom line, we don't know what color Esther was. Okay.
She wasn't spotted.
She wasn't spotted. She wasn't.
All righty. Let's see where we are here. No, I went too far. It's too bad. I don't know how to fix that when I go too far. That was a big mistake. Bum, 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 bum. I'll do that again. Better to err. Before. Okay, I don't know if we read this one. It's part of the Tzedakah ones. I think we may have, but we'll look at it again. That is that he commanded us to lend to the poor, to lighten his poverty from upon him, and to ease his condition. So this is lending to the poor. This commandment is stronger and more obligatory than the whole commandment of charity. For the anguish of one who has already been revealed and disgraced to ask for people is not the same as the one who hides that he needs to be helped, so that his poverty not be revealed and be disgraced. And the statement of this commandment, in other words, when you lend to a person, they are not necessarily admitting that they are without. They may, sometimes you lend to people just because they're not liquid or something. So it's a way of lightening and easing his load without requiring to fully reveal his lacking. His poverty not be revealed and he be disgraced. And the statement of this commandment is his may be exalted if you lend money to my people. And the language of the Mechilta is every if in the Torah connotes optionality except for three. And this is one of them. So even though it says if, it shouldn't be an option. In other words, it's an obligation. If a person can lend the money and they're being asked to lend money and they can lend the money, they must lend the money. That's what the Rambam's saying. If in the Torah connotes optionality except for three, and this is one of them. And they said if with money is obligatory. You say it is obligatory, but perhaps it's optional. Hence, we learn to say, and you shall surely lend him. It is obligatory, not optional. The laws of this commandment have already been explained in Ketubot. So even though it is optional, that doesn't mean that you're supposed to not have protections. So if you are lending the money, that means that the person is supposed to pay you back. So you're allowed to, for instance, require guarantors for a loan. You're allowed to ask for collateral for a loan. You're allowed to, if necessary, tell somebody that you, because of priorities, because other priorities with your money, you could only lend a certain amount. You can't lend more because you have priorities. It does not seem, he doesn't give enough information here when it comes to this. But it would seem that the hierarchy that we talked about before when it comes to giving tzedakah would also apply here. So you have a certain amount of funding that's set aside for this kind of thing. Also, by the way, does it have to be limited to your charitable giving? Or when you give a loan, is that coming from another part? Let's say a person sets aside 10%, which is the suggested amount. They set aside 10% from their profits for tzedakah. So is that the money you would lend out of? Or when somebody comes for a loan, is that from the other 90%? That's not your 10%. Your 10% is going to be given away. These kind of loans would come from the 90%. So those are things somebody would have to look into when you're trying to figure out how you engage the poor but also people that need to borrow. I think I may have shared this with you, but in a place like West Riders Park, there are millions of dollars available for free loans for people that need a loan for a couple months. They are micro loans. They are, for the most part, not large loans. They're mostly micro loans. So it usually is a few $100s. It could be up to a few $1,000s. There are options for even more than that, but those are rare. But there are millions of dollars available. And this is the case in Jewish neighborhoods around the world. I remember one time, because when I was in Kollel, I relied a lot on these microloans. And so I got to know quite a few of them because I was essentially at one point borrowing from one to pay off the other one for a couple of years. And so I got to know a lot of the different ones that were around. And it was just like shocking to me at one point because there was just like one block where there were millions of dollars in these loans. going out to people in these kind of microloans. And I know the economics of microloans has been studied. They certainly, when I've heard about philanthropic projects that and the study of philanthropic projects, it often comes up, microloans often come up as amongst the most impactful ways of helping out people in poverty. So yeah, I'm sure there's been studies of they're typically called gemach, short for gmilat chasadim, which is acts of kindness. Okay, this we saw something like this before. Why did we see this before? We saw this before. Anyways, the next mitzvah, that is that he commanded us to demand interest from idolaters. Ravid and Ramban disagree with him that this is not a positive commandment at all. And the Sifrei quoted below is only, you see, this made them so nervous, Francis Nataf, made him so nervous he has to actually have this in a paragraph here, because the Rambam says you're supposed to, and how does he say? Yeah, you're supposed to, the Hebrew, again, I don't know what the Aramaic was, the Arabic was, but the Hebrew is Tzivanu levakesh ribit mina oved glilin. We are commanded to ask for, that's in Hebrew, ask for ribit from an idolater. Here, he translates it as demand interest from idolaters, whatever. But in his parenthetical comment here, which goes on for quite some way, he says, Ra'avad, that's Rabbi Avram ben David of Provence, and Ramban, so these are both extremely influential scholars. The Ravid is from Provence and the Ramban is from Spain. Disagree with him. This is not a positive commandment at all. And the Sifrei quoted below is only saying that when one lends to a Jew with interest, one transgresses a negative commandment that is derived from a positive commandment. And this is the consensus of all the decisors. Okay. And we may lend to them. This is so that we not benefit him or help him. And even when its content is such that he gives it to him in such a way as was prohibited to do with a Jew. You know what's interesting here? It seems like his explanation is connected to that earlier subject of lo sichonem. The Rambam, here's why the Rambam's saying what he's saying, because there's a question. We saw before that it is prohibited to show favor to members of the 7 nations. You cannot show favor to them. That's a negative commandment. Why did we? Oh, I know why we saw it. We saw it in the Gill student article about Amalek. He brought up, that's where we saw it. He brought up the prohibition of showing favor to members of the 7 nations. It's the actual prohibition is mentioned with regard to the 7 nations. And then in the various commentators, it seems from most of them that it was meant to be expanded to all idolaters, There is some question as to whether it should be expanded to all Gentiles or just to all idolaters. This, in research that I was doing on this, it seems like there is some degree of consensus that it does not apply to all Gentiles. That there's a line of consensus that it does apply to all idolaters, but not that it applies to all Gentiles, although it's foggy. It's very foggy. But there is a prohibition of doing favors to idolaters. You're not supposed to do a favor to an idolater. That's how many understand the halacha. You are not allowed to do favor to an idolater. And that's what the Rambam is saying is the underlying issue with interest. If you don't get interest from them, then you're doing them a favor, and you're not allowed to do favor for them. That's why the Rambam holds you have to ask for interest. The question's going to be the Ravid and the Ramban. What's their thinking? How are you allowed to lend to them without interest? If you lend to them without interest, you're doing them a favor. You're not allowed to do them favors. This is so that we not benefit him or help him. So this seems to be, that is excellent, fascinating. And even when its content is such that he gives it to him in such a way as was prohibited to do with the Jew. So you still have to take interest, the Rambam's saying. You have to take interest. And that is his maybe exalted saying, to a stranger you may charge interest, such that the received explanation comes to teach that this is a positive commandment. It's a mitzvah say to take interest from a idolater. So I want to see the Hebrew here. See, his choice of translation here. He didn't have to translate it the way he did, and then it wouldn't make it. He translates it as, to a stranger you may charge interest. That's not how the Rambam would translate it. The Rambam would translate it as, to a stranger you must charge interest. And honestly, unless he's translating from the Arabic, which I don't think he is, the Hebrew here is, no, it's not even a translation, it's a pasuk. That should be translated as, you shall charge interest, not you may charge interest, such that the received explanation comes to teach that this is a positive commandment. And the language of the Sifrei is, to a stranger, again, you must charge interest, is a positive commandment. But to your brother shall you not charge interest, is a negative commandment. This commandment also has rabbinic stipulations, and the regulations of the commandment have already been explained in Bava Metzia. So that is cool because, and so at first, the reason I think it's cool is because at first you think to yourself, why is he doing this? Why would he say that you must take interest? And then you see, he tells you. Because if you don't take interest from them, then you're doing them a favor, and you're not supposed to be doing them favors. The thing is, we do give tzedakah the halacha is you give tzedakah to Gentiles. And it's not just Gentiles. You give tzedakah even to idolaters. But why do you do it? You do it because of darkei shalom, ways of peace. So I was thinking when I saw this, because I was reading this in a book by Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik. I just got this sefer the other day from Moshe Soloveitchik. It was a book that he wrote about a mourning. It's a book about mourning, halachic book, discussion of mourning. And so he has a whole section on visiting Gentiles, comforting Gentiles who are mourning. And so this whole discussion about who it applies to, he based on his survey of halachic opinions, to him it's quite clear that the prohibition of doing favors or nice things doesn't apply to Gentiles in general. It only applies to a certain class of idolater. And he has several sources that he cites from it. Again, I when I was looking into responsa about this subject, there are different opinions. Like, for instance, included in this is, can you sell property to Gentiles in Israel? Can you sell pieces of Israel to Gentiles? So Rabbi Ovadia Yosef points out that it has been the custom in Israel to do it for many generations to Arabs, because Arabs are monotheists. He wasn't sure, they weren't sure about Christians, but they were sure about Muslims. I mean, fairly certain, because that had been the custom a long time. But would that apply to Christians as well? So there's all sorts of discussion about it. But Rav Aaron was confident that it does apply to Christians as well. That nowadays, these prohibitions would not apply to Christians. So the question would be, if this is the rationale for the Rambam, what would you say about Christians? So it seems like the thing is, the Rambam might have held that Christians, it does seem like that the Rambam holds Christians are idolaters. He seemed to be of that opinion, that Christians are idolaters. So according to the Rambam, this would apply to Christians. You have to take interest from them. Now, what about Ava? What about that prohibition of hatred? Certainly we have seen that lending with interest caused massive hatred. So you would think that looking back, people would say that you shouldn't charge interest because of hatred. In fact, that is going to be one of my questions as I study hatred. I'm interested in studying the parameters of that permit of Ava. We once looked at it, a discussion of it, which is, under what circumstances do we consider potential hatred of Gentiles? Certainly, there are those who are comfortable saying we're not building the Beit HaMikdash because of Ava. We heal the wounded on Shabbos, of Gentiles on Shabbos, because of Ava. There were all those different things we looked at. So, but I was interested in, how do you define the parameters? Who gets to make the decision? But one of my big questions is, why didn't somebody see that this whole interest thing was
I think,
causing
Rabbi, if you think about
millions
it,
of people to be killed?
the reason that Jews had money to lend in medieval Europe anyway, is because they did charge interest. And basically it was a way, like for the king, once he, he would confiscate it to get money from his barons, because the Jews would get interest, then they'd have money. How else would they have money?
Well, but if you're saying that there's a prohibition against doing something that will cause hatred of the Jews.
No, I know that, but
so then it would be better to be hungry than it would be, you would think. It's a prohibition. Why didn't somebody say that this will bring Ava? You're not allowed to do it. They're not building the base of Mikdash because of Ava. They're not.
Yeah, but in many places they couldn't do anything else. They couldn't.
What do you mean they couldn't do anything else? What? There's no excuse. What if the only thing you could do is shoot people in the head? Would you be allowed to shoot people in the head?
Yes.
They're essentially they're shooting people in the head. It's just a delay. It's a delay. If you take Ava seriously, it's not just a theoretical problem. It's a real problem. We are suspending all sorts of rules because we're concerned that it may lead to some kind of degree of hatred that eventually Jews will be killed because of it. And it's like you see the one right in front of your face, and you're just completely ignoring it. It's the Ava elephant in the room. So you're saying that unless that there was some kind of reasoned decision, which never seems to be made with Ava anyways, but there's some kind of reasoned decision that somebody made that since this is the only way for the Jewish people to survive in exile, this is going to be an exception to our concern about Ava, which it might be, but somebody would have to say it. Don't you think somebody would have to talk about it somewhere? I don't know. It's a weird.
But if you're commanded to take it, as we are here from.
No, so the Rambam, I agree. So the Rambam, no, but you would suspend that anyways. There's a lot of commandments. We suspend them because of Ava. We suspend we suspend them because of Ava. But I'm saying, yeah, the Ramban and the Ravid are really in a thing here. At first, they look so good. I love it when things like that happen. The Ravid and the Ramban look so good, politically correct. And then, boom, you got this problem. How can you do it? You're not supposed to be showing favor. This is delicious. All right. Okay. Also, another thing in Rav Aaron Soloveitchik's, of blessed memories, book. So he continuously uses the words Darkei Shalom, ways of peace. We do this because of ways of peace. We do this because of ways of peace. So the question is that a different category than Ava? Ava means we don't want to engender a hatred. Darkei Shalom sounds like we want peace. They don't sound like they're going in exactly the same direction. They sound like they might exist side by side, but they seem to have different emphases. And it made me wonder, do we want shalom? Because do we genuinely want shalom? According to Lo Sichanem, there are people that we do not want shalom with. Idolaters, the 7 nations, we don't want shalom with them. We don't want to live in shalom with them. Let's put it that way. We don't want to live in shalom with them because the Torah doesn't want us to learn from their ways. Okay. I look forward to more of this together. I say we do it tomorrow. Thank you very much.
I second the motion.
Part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem a little like, is it just making peace is just a sop, or is it something you actively pursue? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Is it a genuine goal, or is it just you don't want hatred?
Right.
All right. Be well, guys.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Be well.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Be
Thank
well.
you.
Be
Bye.
well. You're welcome. Be well.